for non-tournament use. So now we will take out the sear. To take out the sear, you just need to remove the C-clip on the top of the solenoid. Grab it with the pliers, pull it out, C-clip. Slide the sear assembly up and out, and you're good. Now you have left the trigger mechanism and the electronics. We take off the other side of the grip frame. We have a screw that holds the solenoid in place. Take that out. Now the solenoid is able to slide out the front. We'll unplug the Hall effect sensor. Now we can unscrew the circuit board. The circuit board has a single screw in the bottom of it here that also acts as the ground for the circuit board, so it's important that it's tight at all times. Single screw. Circuit board can come out now, except for the power lead, which we will not disconnect on the top. So the power lead comes down through the back, comes into the circuit board, and if you were to disconnect all of that, you could see that the whole thing would come out. This is not something that would be normally user serviceable. Solenoid also slides out, but this should never need to be replaced. Again, do not use Loctite on this screw. It will prevent good contact. We'll put this back together. If you should take this apart, make sure that the two switches here have the push buttons in the back of the grip frame installed, and they do not catch on the switches when you put the system back together. Sometimes we'll put a piece of Scotch tape across the back there to hold them in. There are no user serviceable parts on the circuit board. If you have problems with it, please call Airgun Designs. The Hall effect sensor, we'll take it apart here just so you can see it. The Hall effect sensor is a transistor that is sandwiched between two pieces of plastic behind the grip, behind the trigger. Once you unscrew the mounting screw, you can push it out from behind the grip frame. This is the top part. I unthread the wiring for the Hall effect harness now. This is the bottom part of the Hall effects mount. And we're sliding the transistor assembly out the back. Well, maybe we're going to come out the front. This is a small transistor. There are no moving parts in this. It senses magnetism against one face of the transistor, and this is what actuates the gun. Solenoid's hanging out here, so what we'll do is we'll put it back in and screw it down into place to hold it. So now one of the more important things we want to talk about is adjusting your trigger. As you can see, you have a long trigger pull here. This is for the mechanical actuation of the gun. And in E mode, you have a much shorter trigger pull. There are several adjustments that can be made to the emag, and this is one of the best things about the electronic side of the gun. Up in the top, there is a small set screw inside the shaft that connects the lever. You can see it right there. If we put the proper size Allen wrench in there, you can adjust this. You can adjust the stroke when it's in E mode. So now you can see that there's some visible movement of the trigger. If I screw this in, I can adjust it till there's absolutely zero movement of the trigger. There's no movement now. Let's adjust. One of the things you need to be careful of when you're adjusting this is that the lever switch is in the proper position. It's moved a little bit on me here. Okay, we have a very slight amount of movement there. I can adjust it all the way to zero. Now there's no movement. And if I unscrew it about half a turn, that gives me about 1/2 millimeter of trigger throw. And the way we measure that 1/2 millimeter is we measure it from the inside of the top finger loop to the front of the trigger guard. So we would put a calipers in here, pull it, and see how far it moves. So once you've adjusted that, you've adjusted the stroke of your trigger in the E mode. It cannot be adjusted much below about 1/3 of a millimeter due to the hysteresis in the Hall effect sensor. The other thing that's adjustable is the strength of the trigger, the return spring, so to speak. Inside the top of the grip frame are a stack of very strong magnets. These magnets are pulling against another magnet that's in the top of the trigger right here. So when the magnets are removed right now, you can see that the trigger is floppy. It has no return pull at all. When we put these magnets in, it has a return spring, so to speak. Now the way you adjust this is you can put in fewer magnets or more magnets depending on how you like your trigger. So with one magnet it can be lighter, with two magnets it can be a little stiffer, and you can go up to 4 magnets inside your trigger frame. Most people like it somewhere between 2 and 3 magnets. So if you want to barely feel the trigger, go with fewer magnets. If you want to feel a stronger, stiffer trigger, go with more magnets. So those are your 2 adjustments. This has now adjusted your return spring, so to speak, and your stroke in E mode. Mechanical mode is not affected by this. It goes the full stroke to the stops in the frame. So the next thing you need to do is adjust where the sensor picks up the magnet. There's a magnet inside the trigger which is adjusted by putting in a wrench and twisting this in and out. So as we rotate this, the magnet will move in and out toward or away from the